Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Maulana Muhammadin wa alihi wa azwajihi wa zurriyyatihi ajma'in. We are continuing our reading of Allama Iqbal's Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam. And last time we stopped here. He's talking about the nature of man. And one of the things he said that with all his failings, the man is superior to nature. We looked at this last time and we contested this claim. Because by nature here, what we mean is human beings themselves are natural creatures in the sense that they are created beings. And the distinction between different creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't make them superior to each other. He grants or he honors different things with different qualities, and he honors some of his creations over others in different aspects, but that is not superiority. And as the ayah which Allama Iqbal quotes to establish his viewpoint actually proves, that the honor which Allah bestows on people is a test for them. And it's not a sign of superiority as such. Anyway, so he's superior to nature in as much as he carries within him a great trust, which in the words of the Quran, the heavens and the earth and the mountains refuse to carry. Obviously, nothing can refuse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it's a way of saying that it is not in their nature. It's not in their nature. It's not in their constitution, this trust. And the main thing is, what is that trust? And that trust is also a trial. So this trust, which differentiates human beings from other creatures, not being the creature, it doesn't differentiate him, or it doesn't make him superior to other creation in the sense that they are creations and he or she is not a created being in that sense. And that is, as we saw last time, is our essential nature. In that sense, everything in this universe, every created being, everything except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, its essence is the same. That is, it is a created being. So what differentiates human being from other being is this trust. And this trust is a trial. In as much as he carries within him great trust, which in the words of the Quran, the heavens and the earth and the mountains refuse to carry. Okay, so this is one of the last ayah of Surah Al-Ahzab. So he carries within him a great trust, which in the words of the Quran, the heavens and the earth and the mountain refuse to carry. Okay, verily we propose to the heavens and to the earth propose to the heavens and to the earth and to the mountains to receive the trust. Now this translation, or I don't know, it's from the translator or from Allama Iqbal himself, he is in the parenthesis, is interpreting trust as personality, but they refuse the burden and the fear to receive it. إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. Man alone undertook to bear it, but had proved unjust, senseless. Now let's go through this translation. So Abdul Halim's translation is, we offered to the heavens, the earth and the mountains, yet they refused to undertake it and were afraid of it. Mankind undertook it. Mankind, they have always been very inept and rash. So I think rash is a better translation, because the jahul is not from jahl, it's not from ignorance, it's the opposite of halim. And unjust, zaluman, unjust is a better translation. The meaning of the luma is put something out of its place, so that's injustice. Now Abdul Halim says, what is the trust? The main thing is, what is the trust? And trust is a trial. And what differentiates human being from other creatures, all are creatures, and that's their essential nature. And obviously Allama Iqbal doesn't emphasize this point. But then this is a trial. Trial is trust. So what is the trust? Allama Iqbal is saying it's personality. Abdul Halim, in his translation in the footnote, says it's reason and moral responsibility. And most of the Mufassirun, what they say about the trust, Mufassirin say about the trust is, that's taklif, which is responsibility. Not just moral responsibility, but responsibility in the sense of being responsible for the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to receive and be accountable. Let's look at some of the tafsirs. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. This is Tafsir al-Muyassar. So taklif, mukallif, so that's being accountable. At-takalif al-Sharia, being accountable, that's Tafsir al-Jalalain. The second one was Sharh al-Ma'na bi-Ikhtisar, and Tafsir al-Jalalain says al-Bayamana min as-salawat wa ghayru mimma fi fi'liha min as-sawabat. So taklif. Most of and Sadi says taklif, and Baghawi, Qalam al-Jahid, al-Faraid, وقال أبو العالية ما أمر به ونهوا عنه والعين أمانة واليد. So amana, the trust is our body and our soul and all that. So basically what by trust we mean is accountability, taklif. So by trust we mean trust or amana is accountability. The quality of being accountable, what we call a taklif shari. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us something which make us able to receive his shari commandments, because he has other commandments like his takwini commandments, which animals and rocks and the rivers and the moon and the sun receive it, and as part of nature human beings receive that commandment too. But human beings are unique, not the unique, but one of the unique creatures, because jinns have the same taklif that makes them the receptacle of the to receive the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's unique commandment, that is his shari commandment, his moral and legal commands. So in that sense, when what's his name, Abdul Halim says reason by amana he means reason and responsibility, he is right. And even Allah Iqbal is right to a sense, personality, because that personality is talking about is reason and responsibility. But really what it boils down to is the freedom. That's the trust. Human being among the creatures, they are one of the unique creatures who has limited ability to choose, limited ability to accept and reject certain things. And obviously that ability goes with reason, because freedom is related to reason. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given human beings this limited capacity to either accept or refuse his moral and legal commands, which we call shari commands. And that's a trial. And then you'll see those who accept his commands willingly, they are Muslims, and they will have rewards. And those who reject his commands will have negative consequences for it in this life and hereafter. So amana is basically freedom and reason and moral responsibility. So animals and rocks and earth and mountains don't have that responsibility because they don't have freedom. So they are receptacle of, they receive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command, but only his takwini commands, that is his natural laws, his natural commands, and they don't receive his revelational commands or his shari commands. So from this what we infer is that human beings are distinguished from other creatures not by being creatures. They are creatures, and that's their basic essence. But their contingent nature, which differentiates them from their contingent essence, so to speak, which differentiates from other beings, is this freedom and reason. Sort of reason which goes with freedom, because other creatures have reason of different sort, as Quran says. But from this, the conclusion is not that human beings are superior to other creatures, but this is an honor Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed on human beings, but that honor makes them susceptible to this greatest trial. So it is a trial, it's not a superiority. And in fact, the sense of superiority will fail human beings in that trial, because one of his commands is not to act like a superior being, not to act like a divine being, not to act like the Lord of the universe, because there's only one Lord of the universe. That's what we say every time we say Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar kabira, alhamdulillah kasira, subhanallah bukratan wasila. But Allama Iqbal's conception is totally different. He thinks that this makes human beings superior to others, this freedom. Despite the fact that it is a great responsibility, it makes human beings superior to others, godlike creatures, as Kant thought, as Hegel thought. So in that he is true to his German idealist masters, Allama Iqbal here. And he's reading the Quran here through German idealism and British idealism always. So let's go back a bit. And how do we find him in this environment? A restless being engaged in his ideals to the point of forgetting everything else, capable of inflicting pain on himself in his ceaseless quest for fresh scopes for self-expression. With all his failings, he is superior to nature, inasmuch as he carries within him a great trust, which in the words of the Quran. So he is claiming, Allama Iqbal is claiming superiority, human being superiority to nature on the basis of this trust. But as we just saw, the ayah he quotes doesn't establish that. And in fact, Quran and Islam rejects any claims to superiority and teaches us to reject superiority actually, and to claim superiority only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With all his failings, he is superior to nature, inasmuch as he carries within him a great trust, which in the words of the Quran, the heavens and the earth and the mountains refuse to carry. Verily, we proposed to the heavens and to the earth and to the mountains to receive the trust, but they refused the burden and they feared to receive it. That is, the man alone undertook to bear it. I think alone is a mistranslation, because Quran doesn't say alone. And إن عرضنا السماوات والأرض إن عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملن وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان. So it doesn't say alone. إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. And the translation of Jahul also seems to be incorrect. And because Jahul is not Jahl. Jahul is the opposite of Halim. Halum. A man alone undertook to bear it. So alone seems to be a wrong translation. On the other hand, Abdul Halim say, we offered the trust to the heavens, the earth, and the mountains, yet they refused to undertake it and were afraid of it. Mankind undertook it. They have always been very inept, and by inept he does mean unjust, because the meaning of in the footnote he said the meaning of zalama is put something out of its place, so that is injustice. And rash is a better translation of jahula. But on the whole, Abdul Halim's translation is superior. And he says the trust of reason and moral responsibility, which obviously goes back to the basic freedom to choose. That's the trust, which makes human being able to receive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's shari command. That's what taklif is. So the trust is a taklif, that is the characteristics or the characteristic in human beings which make them susceptible to the shari commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala beyond his takwini commands. Anyway, so Iqbal goes on to say his career. I don't know what does he mean by that. Human being's career, no doubt, has a beginning. So he is a creature. He's the created being. Although that doesn't prove that, but he is destined perhaps to become a permanent element. So in the constitution of being. I don't know what does that mean. It's a Hegelian, Aristotelian garbage, I think. Permanent element. Mean he doesn't, after that, it's eternal life either in paradise or in the hellfire. And then he quotes from the last few ayah of Surah Al-Qiyamah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أيحسب الإنسان أن يترك سدى ألم يك نطفة من مني يمنى ثم كان علقة فخلق فسوى وجعل منه الزوجين الذكر والأنثى أليس ذلك بقادر على أن يحيي الموتى. Thinketh man that he shall be thrown away as an object of no use? Was he not a mere embryo? Then he became thick blood, of which God formed him and fashioned him and made him twain, male and female. Is not he powerful enough to quicken the death? Was he not a mere embryo? That shows how human beings are part of nature. Abdul Halim's translation is, does man think he will be left alone? Was he not just a drop of spilt out sperm, which became a clinging form, which God shaped in due proportion? God shaped in due proportion, fashioning from it the two sexes, male and female. Does he who can do this not have the power to bringing the dead back to life? So that's the argument for resurrection here. Let's see what Iqbal is trying to prove from this. When attracted by the forces around him, man has the power to shape and direct them. When thwarted by them, he has the capacity to build a much vaster world in the depth of his own inner being, wherein he discovered the sources of infinite joy and inspiration. He has the power to direct and shape forces around him to a certain extent. Obviously, human beings always, if they are misguided, as they are, if they don't listen to the command of Allah, they overestimate their powers. They overestimate their power. So when attracted by the forces around him, man has the power to shape and direct them. When thwarted by them, he has the capacity to build a much vaster world in the depth of his own inner being. Vaster world in the depth of his own inner being. The inner world of his imaginations, I guess, wherein he discovered the source of infinite joy and inspiration to give it another try, to impose himself on the forces outside nature, I guess. So hard his lot and frail his being, like a rose leaf, yet no form of reality is so powerful, so inspiring, and so beautiful as the spirit of man. So that's a very humanistic. Allama Iqbal is inspired by humanity. So he's singing the hymn of human being. But what he's not saying is he's not God. Human being is not God, can't be God. And every attempt to make him a God, or his attempt to make himself God, is misguided. That's the main message which we should take from here. Thus, in his innermost being, man is conceived by the Quran. So, thus, in his inmost being, man, as conceived by the Quran, is a creative activity. Creative activity. Well, freedom is limited capacity to create, or just fashion, really, because man cannot create anything out of nothing. So that's the test for human beings to, not be deluded by this freedom and not be deluded in thinking that he is a creator. Thus, in his inmost being, man as conceived by Quran is a creative being, an ascending spirit. Yes, ascending and descending as well. So he will ascend if he submit his will to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he will descend to the lowest if he transgress against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and try to be a creator. But obviously Allah Iqbal is not reading all that. Who in his onward march rises from one state of being to another. There's no onward march. I mean, there's this universe and there are two ways. نجدين فلاقتحم العقبة فك رقبة إطعام في يوم وإطعام في يتيم ذا مقربة أو مسكين. So there are two ways: the ways going to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the way of shaitan. That's the only march we have. But obviously Allah Iqbal is on this onward march is some sort of Hegelian march. So he is trying to construct a Islamic Hegelian philosophy as parallel to Hegel's Christian Hegelianism, I guess. Right, this from one state of being to another. Okay, let's look at this ayah and then stop. This is from Surah Al-Inshiqaq, ayah 16 to 19, and 16 to 19. So وإذا السماء انشقت وأذنت لربها وحقت. Let's start. وإذا الأرض مدت وألقت ما فيها وتخلت وأذنت لربها وحقت. يا أيها الإنسان إنك كادح إلى ربك كدحا فملاقيه فأما من أوتي كتابه بيمينه فسوف يحاسب حسابا يسيرا وينقلب إلى أهله مسرورا وأما من أوتي كتابه وراء ظهره فسوف يدعو ثبورا ويصلى سعيرا إنه كان في أهله مسرورا إنه ظن أن لن يحور بلى إن ربه كان به بصيرا فلا أقسم بالشفق. So he's quoting here from here. So it's the whole surah is about the day of judgment. Let's see how he. But nay, I swear by the sunset's redness, and by the night and its gatherings, and by the moon when at her full, that from state to state shall ye be surely carried onward. So, إن ربك فلا أقسم والليل وما وسق والقمر إذا اتسق لتركبن طبقا عن طبق. That you shall gradually pass from one stage to another. What does that mean? فما لهم لا يؤمنون وإذا قرئ القرآن لا يسجدون بل الذين كفروا يكذبون والله أعلم بهم. Let's look at Abdul Halim's translation. Now, Allama Iqbal is quoting from ayah 16. And Abdul Halim's translation is, I swear by the twilight. I swear by the twilight, by the night and what it covers, by the full moon you will progress from stage to stage. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so why do they not believe? So stage to stage. And Allama Iqbal is interpreting this state to stage or stage to tabak as human beings' Hegelian march, as an ascending who in his onward march rise from one state of being to another. But in fact, the whole surah is about the day of judgment. So what it's talking about is the different stages in human's life. When he was just a clot of blood, and then it formed, and then he was a baby, then grown up, then lived his life, then he dies, and then he would be resurrected. That's what most Mufassirin say. And that's what the context of surah is. It's no Hegelian march, because If you go back and read the surah, it says, in the name of Allah, the Lord of mercy, the giver of mercy, when the sky cracks, obeying its Lord as it rightly must, when the earth is leveled out, cast out its contents and become empty, obeying its Lord as it rightly must, you humans toiling laboriously toward your Lord will meet him. Whoever is given his record in his right hand will have an easy reckoning and return to his people well pleased. But whoever is given his record from behind his back will carry out for destruction. He will burn in the blazing fire. He used to live among his people well pleased. Like he used to think he's superior. He thought he would never return to his Lord. He thought he was eternal. Indeed, he will. His Lord was watching him. And then what? Then the ayahs, Allah, his Lord was watching him, I swear by the twilight, by the night, and what it covers, by the full moon, you will progress from stage to stage. So why do they not believe? Why, when the Quran is read to them, do they not prostrate themselves to God? No, the disbelievers reject the Quran. God knows best what they keep hidden inside. So give them news of a painful torment. But those who believe and do good deeds will have a never-ending reward. So Quranic march, Quranic stages and Hegelian stages are entirely different. It is not an onward march from one state of being to another. These are stages of life and being born, living your life and dying, and then there would be resurrection, and then there would be eternal life. So this gross misinterpretation of the Quran, trying to Hegelianize and the Quran to read something which is totally going against the Quran. The idea that human beings are the Lord of this universe, or they can become the Lord of this universe. Okay, we'll stop here and we'll continue from here, inshallah.